Alright, hey everybody, DK back again. This is video 3 in my little series on the Leo Lunar Eclipse on February 10th, 2017. So we have these 3 aspect patterns that are happening at the eclipse, which is just kind of mind-blowing. This never happens, or not that frequently. And the third one is what's called a yod, or the finger of God pattern, and it points to Chiron, the wounded healer. So here's Chiron in the 23rd degree of Pisces. And then the other points on the yod are the moon and Jupiter, which are also part of the mystic rectangle. So what's a yod? Well, the symbolism of the yod is that the planet that's the focal point of the yod is being put under this pressure to sort of evolve or be elevated to the highest level possible. And once it does, it activates this really powerful energy circuit between all 3 planets. So this kind of energy where miracles can happen and great leaps forward occur. But in order for that to happen, we have to bring this planet into more awareness. Well, Chiron in Pisces, Chiron functions through awareness. So Chiron's the wounded healer archetype. We all have Chiron somewhere in our natal chart, and Chiron talks about where we get wounded in childhood. And with my experience over many years as an astrologer, I see this as these mini soul groups that come in, usually 6 to about 10 years. Chiron has a very elliptical orbit, so he spends different amounts of time in the different signs, but who come in to experience the same wound and then kind of work through it. Pisces is about trust and belief, so Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It's we're all one, we're all connected, let's have compassion, this is just a dream that we're all making up together. Let's have some fun with it, and let's be kind, let's not be so heavy and dense and authoritarian and all the just heavy negative stuff that's going on. Interestingly, this picture is bringing the 1960s back around. So I'm going to show you that chart. Chiron was hanging around this degree, the 23rd degree of Pisces, from basically the middle of 1965 through the beginning of 1967. Now, in the 60s, we also had Saturn in Pisces, and Saturn was loosely conjunct Chiron during that time period, with both of them opposite Pluto and Uranus. So this signature here is sort of the key signature for the revolutions, the unrest, the upheavals of the 1960s. And I think what's interesting about this time, so Uranus and Pluto, big part of that signature, we've just gone through 3 years of exact Uranus-Pluto hits, ending in 2015. And so now we're on the other side of that. But it's interesting that we have Chiron coming back to the same degree area, but without Saturn, right? And that's going to make a huge difference, because basically Chiron in Pisces in the 60s was one of the signatures for the hippies, for all you need is love, for let's make this a better world. Let's get out of the hurtful part of the dream and make the dream beautiful. We can all live together, man, right? But then you had Saturn, the authoritarian, the judge, the cop, kind of sitting right on top of it, trying to squash it, not to mention this explosive energy over here. We do still have Saturn and Chiron in a challenging relationship. Chiron in 23 Pisces, Saturn at 25 Sag, that's a square angle. But Saturn in Pisces so the 60s is this kind of karmic, kind of heavy signature, whereas Saturn in Sagittarius, that's Jupiter's sign, and these two are in a great angle to one another, is, as we talked about in the first video, it's part of Saturn's part of this grand fire trine that's going on at the eclipse, and it's just a naturally more, I think, it's an energy that we can work with socially. So this is definitely the next turn of the wheel from the 1960s. Some of the things that were happening in 65 to 67, the National Organization of Women was founded, the Voting Rights Act was instituted in the U.S., ending segregation at the polls officially. Martin Luther King was rising into prominence. He came out and spoke out against the Vietnam War, which was building up. Malcolm X was assassinated. There, it was just this big time of unrest, but a lot of really the seed energy for a lot of positive change that happened subsequently between then and now. So what do we need to do in order to activate this yod? Well, we want to look at all 3 points. We want to, really own our inner divinity and give ourselves credit for what we do in the world that's good, for radiating our spirit out into the world in a positive way. With Jupiter and Libra, we want to definitely focus on our relationships and minimize, the haters, the naysayers, the trolls. So get off the forum, stop watching the negative YouTube videos, etc., right? That's not positive Jupiter and Libra. We want to connect with people who uplift us and who inspire us to be our best and to go for what's our highest vision of who we can be in the world. And then I think this symbol is really fascinating because the degree that Chiron is in, the Sabian symbol for that degree is a materializing medium giving a seance. Now, obviously, that can kind of go, that can be a good experience. It can be a negative experience. You're definitely dealing with the occult there and calling in other dimensions. I feel like what this is calling us to do, though, again, Pisces is about trust. It's about our belief. And I feel like it's calling us each as individuals and then collectively as a movement that we don't believe in what the president or what the greedy corporate power mongers and the Illuminati and the people behind the scenes that have had the money and the power, the patriarchy, the dominators. We don't believe in their world, and we don't want their world. And Dane Rudger, in his great book An Astrological Mandala on the Sabian symbols, says about this degree: the ability to give of one's own vital energy to substantiate one's conscious ideals or unconscious desires. He says in its most constructive aspect, this symbol suggests substantiation, which is basically, it's a challenge to us to believe. Do we believe enough that this time we can do it? In the 60s, there was a lot of progress, but eventually it got crushed. Well, new day, new ball game, right? We know a lot more. We're connected in ways that people could only imagine and dream about and make sci-fi television series about, right? Than people were back then, right? Than we were back then. I feel like this yod is kind of the hidden ingredient in this eclipse, and you definitely want to, again, look at where these degrees are in your chart. If you have any planets or points, either at these degrees, square, 90 degrees away from them, or opposite these degrees. So, for example, those of us born in the late 60s, many of us have Pluto hanging around 22, 26 or so degrees, Virgo. So this is gonna definitely activate your Pluto if you're born in the late 60s. But look at those areas and look at the house that Chiron is in, because that's gonna tell you where you really need to pull your energy together and decide, hey, do I really believe this or not? And then I think collectively, we're already demonstrating by our actions that we do believe in a better world, and we're not gonna let the negative trolls drag us back down into some muck. This is the creative age. We're right in the beginning of this new epoch in the world, and we're here at a special time. And I feel like this eclipse today is just on so many levels. You may not see the effects immediately, but again, eclipses resonate out over long periods of time. So, take that risk and believe in yourself, believe in your vision, and pull your energy together and spend some time today focusing on the world that you want and your role in it. And that's one of the most powerful things that you can actually do for the world. Do what you love. Emphasize what you love.